Right, so welcome to Out and About with Trev. Today I'm down at Flinder Street the intersection of Flinder Street and Swanson Street, and we've got a little bit of police presence. We've got quite a few vehicles around, and we've actually got a bit of a rally organised by the left movement, the Socialists. Basically, they're going to have a speak out about the Adani mine for a start, which they're suggesting shouldn't be constructed, and also talking about Australia's addiction to coal, which is a bit of an outdated methodology or idea, I think. We've got to be smarter with it, and we'll just see what happens tonight. I'm not sure what sort of amount of people are going to get, but it should be interesting, and the weather's absolutely cracking for it, so we'll just see how the rest of the afternoon goes. We've got quite a lot of police presence, so I'm sure that they'll be able to maintain law and order, and we just hope that it goes off as a nice, peaceful protest. People can get their point of view across, and that's what we really want. And I've been to a number of these things, and it's great when you can just get people get up, they have their speeches, they have their chants, and then everyone goes home all nice and safe, and that's what we want. But the message is, ultimately, it's very important because, fossil fuels are running out. They're a finite resource, and we need to be smarter with it, and I think it's about time we started doing that, and obviously so do a lot of other people, and that's just where it's going. And we hope that we don't see a recurrence. Recently we had some protests, and we had the far right, and a section of them are sort of perpetrating or putting themselves up as being sort of neo-Nazi group.
Good evening. Angry protests in St Kilda have been met by a massive police response. Extreme right-wing demonstrators with swastika signs were confronted by anti-racism groups. Both sides combined were outnumbered by police, who used capsicum spray and made 3 arrests.
Flashpoint on the foreshore, St Kilda beach divided. 2 sides with opposing views on multiculturalism, police keeping them apart. Both keen to label the other.
They're violent fascists.
We just want to make sure there's some opposition to the thugs that are trying to mobilise.
Right-wing activist Neil Erickson, who's been convicted for hate speech against Muslims, says he wanted to reclaim the beach after weeks of violent late-night confrontations between groups of youths and innocent victims. Among their supporters, Senator Fraser Anning. But another group got to the beach first, determined to be bigger and louder.
Africans are welcome, racists are not.
It's got out of hand. Every time we have a protest, the left come and counter it, and there's always violence. It's sad to see.
The police reaction was enormous. On the ground, hundreds of public order response team members, some in riot gear, ready for anything, plus the Canine unit, and in the air, on horseback, and even in Port Phillip Bay. The long arm of the law, occasionally around a neck.
What about the real story?
Come with me.
Officers desperate to stifle hints of violence using capsicum spray.
We don't need that sort of thing here as well, so we just want it to be nice and peaceful. And again, the weather is absolutely cracking. I can think of a lot of other things I'd rather be doing than having a protest today, but there you go. When they organised this thing, they probably didn't think it was going to be quite so good. We'll just see how it goes.
That is being produced by mining companies in Australia, who is concerned with the 80 workers in mining companies who have the deadly black lung disease, who is concerned with Indigenous people's land rights being run roughshod over as a result of mining companies, whose profits are more important than people's lives and people's communities. I encourage you to come in, find out about how you can be a part of the campaign to stop the Adani coal mine, stop another major pollutant corporation from getting their hands on the Australian environment. Soon we're going to be hearing from a Greens MP, a Greens federal candidate for the seat of Macnamara. So if people want to find out more about this campaign, we're going to hear from our Greens candidate, Steph Hodgins-May. I encourage you to come down in and find out about the campaign.
It's hardly saying that we've only got 12 years to...
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, no, I was not sitting there for that. Yeah, that's fine.
No more coal, no more oil. Leave that carbon in the soil. No more coal, no more oil. Leave that carbon in the soil. No more coal, no more oil. Leave that carbon in the soil. No more coal, no more oil. Leave that carbon in the soil. No more coal, no more oil. Leave that carbon in the soil. No more coal, no more oil. Leave that carbon in the soil. No more coal, no more oil. Leave that carbon in the soil.
In the photos.
No more oil. Leave that carbon in the soil. No more coal, no more oil. Leave that carbon in the soil. No more coal, no more oil. Leave that carbon in the soil. No more coal, no more oil. Leave that carbon in the soil. Alright, for people who are wondering what's going on here, we're here to send a message that we do not want the Adani coal mine to be built. We do not want any more coal to be built in this country. Any more coal mines to get money from taxpayers' money. We don't want any more coal mines to have the right to our land. We don't want any more coal mines to have the right to pollute our population and kill people through the pollution that's coming out of the biggest exporter of coal mines around the world. The Adani coal mine has had widespread criticism, and we're here to send the message that we will not stop until the Adani coal mine is no longer built in Australia. Here to send a message to stop the Adani coal mine is a Greens candidate for the seat of Macnamara. Steph Hodgins-May has been a core supporter of this campaign. She's here to lend her support and tell us a bit about it.
Thanks, Tess. Thanks so much to the organisers. This battle over the proposed Adani coal mine is about where we stand as a nation on climate change. The Greens have always been opposed to the Adani coal mine, the Adani mega coal mine. If this mine proceeds, it will tear the heart out of our land. Its impact on native title and environmental and cultural heritage will be devastating. No real word, just stop Adani. The Greens will.
I think one of the most inspiring instances of activism against the Adani coal mine that we've seen is the thousands and thousands of high school students who walked out of their classrooms to say we will not continue business as usual as long as the government keeps allowing the Adani Corporation to build the Carmichael coal mine. When Scott Morrison tried to say there should be no room for activism in the classroom, when he tried to say we shouldn't have parliament in the classroom, these students ignored him. They came out anyway and they said, screw that, if you're not going to do anything about climate change, we will. That's why we're here today, to make sure someone is doing something about this issue. There is another student strike that's being organised. High school students and university students will be walking out on March 15 to say we will not stop until the Adani coal mine is over.
Save the fucking world.
Stop Adani! Stop! Stop Adani! Stop! Adani! Stop! Stop! 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 Adani!
Legalise psychedelics to
Alright,
halt this
next we're
world.
going to hear from one of the university
Legalise
students who's been a
psychedelics.
part of this campaign for a number of years now and has told me that she is going to be walking out of her classes on March 15. Give it up for Beth.
We're standing on land that was stolen when this country was founded on land theft and genocide. And ever since then, it's been land on which a tiny, tiny minority of people have made themselves filthy rich off the continued dispossession of this land and off the exploitation of the natural resources that all of us need to live. And yet with every budget, no matter who is in government, there's money ripped from health, from education and from welfare and given as handout to mining corporations to pollute our air. 3,000 people a year die in this country from air pollution. And yet, in 2010, the Australian CEO of Adani was the head of a corporation that in Zambia had a copper mine that poisoned a river that was the lifeblood for 40% of Zambians. And the Zambians that have been made sick, that have been poisoned, that have been killed, and put into desperate poverty from this poisoning have never been compensated. In 2011, the Adani Corporation caused a coal spill with 60,000 tonnes of coal was spilt off of Mumbai, off the coast, and that has never been cleaned up all these years later. The working conditions of the Adani coal mine workers in India have caused workers to be maimed, have caused workers to be killed. They've used child labour, exploitation, and the dust from the coal mines have meant that the community around these coal mines that can't afford to live anywhere else are choking on coal dust.
Rahimtullah's family have fished near the town of Mundra in India's Gujarat state for more than a century. He says fish stocks have plummeted since Indian energy giant Adani built a coal power plant and port here.
They have taken our livelihood away. We pray God sends a tsunami and puts an end to our lives.
Independent investigations for government departments and the judiciary have found Adani has breached environmental laws by destroying mangroves and blocking creeks to reclaim land. It's left fishermen like Rahimtullah struggling to make a living from the local waterways.
We want relief from this situation. What do we feed our children?
Such desperation in India has many Australians worried. Adani is planning to open a massive coal mine in the Galilee Basin in Australia's northeast. This is where Adani proposes to dig Australia's biggest and one of the world's largest coal mines. It'll span some 30 kilometres and at peak capacity produce 60 million tonnes of coal a year. For farmers in this drought-stricken region, groundwater is vital, but they fear the Adani mine could destroy this precious resource.
If that Adani mine goes ahead, it's going to be devastating.
Cattle farmer Bruce Curry is fighting hard against the Indian company's plans to open the mine.
If they've got no concern for the people in their own country, why would they have any more concern for people in our country?
In a statement to Al Jazeera, the Adani Group denied all allegations that it had caused environmental damage in India. It says the new mine will bring jobs and deliver royalties that will benefit Australia. Marianne Jolly, Al Jazeera, Central Queensland, Australia.
The city of Townsville's draw is easy to see. Its tropical coastline serves as a gateway to the Great Barrier Reef. What's not as evident is the state of Townsville's economy, until you take a closer look at a region that's struggling. One of the biggest hits to the area's economy happened last year when a nearby nickel refinery went into receivership. That refinery created hundreds of direct jobs and, more importantly, thousands of indirect jobs.
We have a serious unemployment problem, and one becomes aware of that even walking around the streets.
It's caused some severe economic ripples. We're still suffering with about 10% unemployment, 20% in youth. So we're very keen to partner where we can with industries to try and deal with that unemployment issue.
The answer for Townsville Mayor Jenny Hill and many others looking for a break hangs enticingly above the city's skyline. Indian mining company Adani wants to build one of the world's largest thermal coal mines in northern Queensland.
A long-term investment in mining, rail and port projects.
The multi-billion-dollar project has the support of Australia's government and offers the kind of immediate help to the region that's tough to ignore.
What we see in Adani is a steady state operation, about an extra $90 million coming into the local economy from jobs that we haven't seen in quite a while.
But opponents of the mine say any potential benefits come at a greater cost.
We surely can find jobs for our people in alternatives that don't destroy the climate and don't destroy the Great Barrier Reef.
The coal would be exported to India. Scientists say that path would have a direct impact on the Great Barrier Reef.
The coal from the mine would be shipped across the Great Barrier Reef, resulting in a doubling or trebling of the amount of shipping across the reef. More ships means a higher risk of invasive species being introduced accidentally in the bilge water, more risk of ship groundings and ship collisions, more dredging, more port development, more coastal development, more pollution from coal dust.
James Cook University professor Terry Hughes says the reef is already facing increasing threats from a warming planet.
The Australian government produces 5 yearly reports. They're called a Barrier Reef Outlook Report, and the last two reports have both concluded that the condition of the Great Barrier Reef is poor and declining, and that global warming and climate change is the #1 threat to the reef.
That reef is one of the area's biggest economic contributors, generating more than $5 billion Australian dollars a year and employing about 64,000 people.
We need jobs, but we need jobs that don't destroy the future of our climate, our reef, the jobs that depend on those.
Public opposition has been growing to the project and a potential $1 billion taxpayer-funded infrastructure loan.
I always believe in the silent majority, and they're the ones we're here to assist, they're the ones we're here to help. And that's why we'll continue to support this project and other projects that, as a council, we're looking to invest in.
A project that Hill says will go a long way in easing the region's economic struggle. Greg Navarro, CGTN, Townsville.
The IPCC has said that we have 12 years to fundamentally restructure the economy so that it is not based on coal. So before we will reach a tipping point of no return for the global climate. And yet, Australia, the Queensland Labor government, the Liberal federal government and the Labor federal opposition want to give Adani the right to build a coal mine that will destroy the Great Barrier Reef and that will contribute significantly to accelerating climate change and to making the climate reach that tipping point of no return. Adani, one of the worst corporations on earth, is symptomatic, I think, of a system that puts the constant pursuit of profit above the needs of ordinary people and above our ability to even live and survive on this planet at all. And so I think it's up to us, students and workers, student unions, labour unions, high school students, all of us who have nothing to gain and everything to lose from climate change, from the Adani coal mine and from this sick system in its entirety, to rise up, to stop this system from functioning until we win our demands. And so on the 15th of March, on that Friday, I'll be walking out with other university students and with school students to support the school student strike. And we'll be walking out all over the country, we'll be filling these streets, and we'll be shutting these cities down until we stop this Adani coal mine and until we win a world that is fit for human beings to live in. And I hope that you'll all join me.
Awesome. Well, we've gathered a bit of a crowd here now who want to be a part of this campaign. One of the issues I'm having is that I'm convinced that a lot of these people who are trying to cross Flinders Street and cross into the station right now can't hear me. So how about we get a chant going to try and send our message as loud as we can across Flinders Street into Fed Square and over the other side of the street. Labor, come off it! The environment is not for profit! Labor, come off it! The environment is not for profit! Labor, come off it! The environment is not for profit! Labor, come off it! The environment is not for profit! Alright, we'll hear from Jamil, who wants to speak about the Adani coal mine as well.
Thank you. I want to start off by a quote from Greta Thunberg from a UN assembly last year. Many of you would have heard of her. She's a 15-year-old Swedish student that helped spark the student strikes that spread to Melbourne in Australia. Today we use 100 million barrels of oil every single day. There are no politics to change that. There are no rules to keep that oil in the ground. So we can't save the world by playing by the rules, because the rules have to be changed. I think that is the starting point for the environmental movement if it has any chance today. That we cannot look to our politicians, we cannot look to those in power. They are the ones for generations that have become millionaires, billionaires and profited from the fossil fuel industry. They're the ones that have promised us solutions and given us nothing but more carbon, more pollution, more climate change. It is the Labor Party and the Liberals who have got the foot on the accelerator driving us to climate apocalypse. It is us ordinary people, the majority of people who will have to pay the costs of climate change, that are the ones we need to look to if we have any hope of change. We're going to be organising for the next Anti-Adani protest. Glad to see everyone here. Let's make sure we get more people in the future. Majority of people are against this mine. That doesn't matter. Politicians don't care. They care when there's masses of people on the streets. They care when we start shutting the system down. That's what we're going to prepare for. From little things, big things grow. Let's build this movement.
All right, thanks so much, Jamil. Now, one of the concerns I have now is all of these people walking past who don't have these leaflets in their hands. These leaflets are for the student strike that's happening on March 15. Students who continually have said we will not continue to sit in our classes passively while the Adani coal mine is being built. I want to see more people come out next time to the student strike. They've already had one that had thousands of people rock up last November. In all of the major cities across Australia, there were students on strike. In 20 regional centres in Australia, there were students who were walking out of their classrooms. Let's make next time even bigger. Let's give the students our support, that we back them when they refuse to go to class as long as the Adani coal mine is being built. So if you're walking past and you don't have one of these in your hand, chat to someone who's got some. If you're standing around and you've only got one in your hand, grab a stack of them from one of the stalls around here and start handing them out so that we can tell more people about the student strike on March 15. All right, our next speaker is Jerome Small. Jerome Small is here representing the Victorian Socialists, who've been a big backer of this campaign as well.
Well, I hope we're all enjoying this nice warm weather that we've got on a 32-degree day, a couple of days into the new year, after the third warmest year that we've ever had in Australia. And we know from the paper today that out of the top 10 hottest years that we've ever had on this continent, 9 of them have been in the last decade. And of course we know the reason for that. So we know that the stakes are incredibly high, in fact couldn't be higher if you look around the world. And we know that in order to keep that carbon in the ground, to keep that coal in the ground, we're up against a hell of a lot. The corporations are too busy making money out of it. The politicians are too busy taking their massive donations and their cushy jobs from these coal corporations, from the carbon corporations. We know that the media, the Herald Sun, butters their bread on the same side. We can't rely on any of them. We have to rely on ourselves, which is why, if you're coming past and you're wondering what all the fuss is about, we're advertising the rally that's happening on the 15th of March. Students around the world are marching out of their classrooms on that day. They're taking to the streets, they're shutting down business as usual, and they're doing it for the future of the planet. They're doing it to say that coal that Adani wants to mine has to stay in the ground. That coal in the Galilee Basin, that enormous carbon bomb that Australian capitalists want to exploit for money, that all of that coal has to stay in the ground. So as you're coming past, grab a leaflet for the 15th of March. Come out and support those students. Whether you can take the day off work, whether you can come in your lunch hour, whether you can walk out of your workplace or out of your school or out of your university, whatever the hell you're doing, you need to stop doing it on the 15th of March and turn out to support the Australia-wide and the worldwide student strike against Adani, against climate change. So grab a leaflet and start spreading the word. We know that some of the most powerful vested interests in this country, some of the most wealthy corporations in this country and in the world are dead set against taking any serious action on climate change. So the solution has to be us. It has to be people power. It has to be ordinary people turning out once again to say business as usual is not going to function so long as the Adani mine and the Galilee Basin mines are being developed. It's not just a matter of personal preference. It's not just a matter of some, sort of hippie prejudice. It's a matter of science. And we've just been through the third hottest year in the history of this continent. Unless we wanted to see getting hotter and hotter for the sake of the profit of the Adanis, of the BHPs, of the Clive Palmers, of the Gina Rineharts, all of those big corporates that want to develop those coal resources, they've got the money, they've got the media, they've got the politicians, all we've got is ourselves. So grab a leaflet for the March 15 rally and turn out to raise your voice against climate change. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jerome. And I think one of the messages coming out about that from Jerome's speech is that this is not just about stopping Adani. This is not just about stopping one of the biggest coal mining mines around the world. This is not just about stopping a corporation that has unleashed 60,000 tons of coal into the ocean and spent 5 years doing nothing about it. This is not just about a corporation that has hired as their CEO the person responsible for poisoning 40% of Zambia's water and has 18,000 Zambians filing a court case against him trying to sue him. This is not just about opposing a corporation that is notorious for tax avoidance and won't pay their taxes. And this is not just about opposing a corporation that is going to contribute to the massive amount of carbon dioxide this country emits every single year. The issue with the Adani coal mine is that it's not just Adani. If the Adani coal mine gets built, it creates the infrastructure for the whole of the Galilee Basin to be developed into coal mines. It creates the basis for 10 other coal mines to be built in that area. Saying no to Adani is about sending the message that we don't want any more coal mines built in this country.
But the next school strike that's coming up, the coverage of that strike, the media coverage, I think that coverage should say the movement is growing. More and more and more people are taking to the streets. School students, university students, workers, everyone. There are more and more people taking to the streets around this issue, and it's growing. So watch out, Labor and the Liberals. That's what we want, I think, out of this next strike that's coming up. So give us a shout, everyone, if you'll be there. Who's going to be there on March 15th? But the thing we need to do in the lead up, that's excellent, but we need to go and get more people who are going to come to that school strike. So what does that mean? To build that school strike into something that's bigger, that's a step forward in this movement. It means that everyone here has to go out and put posters up for that event. It means going out and telling your friends about it. There's leaflets all around here on tables and things like that. Take some home and give them to the people you go to school with or uni or who you work with and tell them you have to be here, I'm going, and you've got to come to the strike as well.
All right, our next speaker is from RMIT University. This is Liam Parry here to chat to us today about why we should oppose Adani.
Well, the Adani coal mine is an affront to climate justice. It's an affront to the environment. It's an affront to all the poor working class people who disproportionately suffer from the effects of climate change all around the world. That's why I'm committed to coming out to the school strike and being involved in the anti-Adani movement in the long term. That's why at RMIT this year, we're planning to make this the key issue on campuses. You're not going to be able to go to your class without hearing an announcement, without getting a leaflet about the rally coming up, about why students should go out, university students should go out and support the high schoolers who are bravely skipping classes, organising to fight for climate justice and for a better world.
All right, thanks, Liam. We've got one more speaker, Mindy, before we can wrap this up and start going out and telling all of our friends about coming along to the student strike.
Okay, thanks, Tess. I'm sure a bunch of people here have felt a whole series of anger, indignation, at times despair, when looking at the current state of the climate, of the world, of the environment altogether. From the disgusting realities of the rising sea tides to the state of climate change in action, I think it's fair to say a lot of people are pissed off, a lot of people are angry at the current state of things. But I think it's also important to point out the hope that people can feel when people want to stand up and make a change. I don't know about you guys, but I felt a lot of hope when I saw kids come out in their tens of thousands and take a stand against climate change in action. I felt a lot of hope when kids went into Q&A and refused to let politicians riddle their way out of destroying our planet. And I felt a lot of hope when I saw protesters crash the Labour Party conference when they tried to get away with having nothing to say about the Adani coal mine, when they tried to get away with lying to our faces about what they're doing, about cozying up with one of the most corrupt, disgusting, amoral companies and types of companies.
A moment for the man who would be Prime Minister to shine in the adulation of his party and the love of his family.
Have to stop the Adani coal mine.
Derailed by a gate-crashing protester determined to steal the spotlight for the cause of ending a coal mine in Queensland. It was just a warm-up.
Which one's yours?
And with that, the small little protest at Flinder Street was basically wrapped up. I think it's important to note that this is a very serious issue. The era of big corporate conglomerates simply doing what they want in the pursuit of profit has to come to an end. We've seen recently here in Australia the Banking Royal Commission, which has highlighted serious problems and issues with the banking sector, and it'll be interesting. The report on that inquiry has only recently been tabled and is yet to be released at the time I'm filming this anyway. Around the world, I think people are fed up with big corporations chasing profit and forgetting about some of their other responsibilities. Certainly we need big business, we need big corporations to be doing the big jobs, absolutely. But they need to be environmentally aware, they need to do things respectfully when it comes to when they're operating in different countries and things like that. And we need to make sure that they don't destroy other people's livelihood, that they don't affect the environment, and they certainly can't destroy absolute treasures such as the Great Barrier Reef. Public objection to the Adani mine is growing, and I'm sure will continue to grow. And I think the Adani Corporation need to take a long, hard look at themselves. I don't understand why they're making more coal-fired power stations anyway. They've got nuclear power plants in India, and we've got hydro power schemes, we've got huge solar power generators being built, we've got other technology coming online, and in fact, it's you sort of got to wonder. We've just recently shut down Hazelwood. So, I mean, Australia probably sits on the brink of walking away from coal-fired power stations anyway. Interestingly enough, we didn't have any involvement from the far-right movement at this particular rally, even though we did have quite a police presence around, and they just sat back and let all of the people just, you know, say what they wanted to say, and then everyone just went home and it was all back to normal. However, the following day, up at the State Library, there was a much bigger rally, squarely aimed at the far-right movement and the so-called neo-Nazi fraternity. And I'm going to feature that in next week's episode. Cheers, guys.